kids. Today we will look at the active and passive voice of a sentence. The voice, active and passive. But what is a voice of a sentence? Voice is the form of verb which shows whether the subject is the doer of an action or the receiver of an action. So there are two kinds of voices, active voice and passive voice. Now in active voice, a verb is said to be in active voice when its form shows that the subject is performing a task. For example, the girl distributes sweets. In this sentence, the subject is the girl and the verb distributes describes the action done by the subject. That means when the subject of the verb is the doer of the action indicated in the verb is said to be in an active form. For example, children love pet animals. My father wakes me up in the morning. Let us now look at passive voice. A verb is said to be in passive voice when its form shows that some task is being performed upon the subject. That means when the subject of the verb is the receiver of the action indicated in the verb is said to be in the passive form. Now, if we look at these examples, the difference between the active and the passive voice will become even more clear. For example, the girl distributes sweets. This is the active voice, and its passive voice is sweets is distributed by the girl. Similarly, children love pet animals is in active voice and its passive voice is pet animals are loved by children. My father wakes me up in the morning is the active voice and its passive voice is I am woken up by my father in the morning. So what we need to remember here is only transitive verb has an object and it can only be changed into passive form. And also the passive voice is so called because the person or thing denoted by the subject is not active but passive. Now let us see how to change the voice from active to passive. As said earlier, only transitive verbs can be changed from active to passive. The object of the verb becomes the subject of the passive verb. Let us see this example. Niharika plays tennis. Niharika is the subject, the active verb is plays and the object is tennis. Now when we change it into passive, it becomes tennis is played by Niharika, where now tennis is the subject, is played is the passive verb and Niharika becomes the agent by adding by. I hope this is clear. Now when we change active into passive, pronouns are also changed, like I changes to me, he changes to him, she changes to her, they changes to them, you remains you, it also remains it, but we changes to us. Now the passive voice is a voice which is formed with the suitable tense of the verb to be followed by the past participle. We can see that in this given table. So if we look at the tense or the modal plus base in simple present, the active voice is take or takes. In passive voice, it changes to is taken, am taken or are taken. Why? Because is or am or are added to the past participle, that is the third form of the verb. Similarly, in present continuous tense, is taking in the active voice changes to is being taken. Am taking in the active voice changes to am being taken in the passive voice. And are taking in the active voice changes to are being taken. How? Is or am or are is added with being, and that is added to the past participle or the third form of the verb. Similarly, if we look at present perfect tense, has taken in active voice changes to has been taken in the passive voice. Have taken in active voice changes to have been taken in the passive voice. For the formation, we have has or have plus been plus past participle or the third form of the verb. Let us now look at simple past. Took in the active voice changes to was taken or were taken in the passive voice, and the formation is was or were plus past participle. Similarly, in past continuous, was taking in the active voice changes to was being taken. Were taking in the active voice changes to were being taken, and its formation is was or were plus being plus past participle or the third form of the verb. Then in past perfect, had taken in active voice changes to had been taken in the passive voice, and its formation is had plus been plus past participle or the third form of the verb. Now let us look at simple future tense. So will take or shall take in the active voice changes to will be taken or shall be taken in the passive voice, and its formation is will be or shall be plus past participle or the third form of the verb. Then when we look at certain modals like can, may, must, etc., then can take in the active voice changes to can be taken in the passive voice. Must take in the active voice changes to must be taken in the passive voice, and its formation is can be or must be plus past participle or the third form of the verb. Now we can also change imperative sentences into passive voice. For example, do it once in the active voice changes to let it be done at once in the passive voice. Don't push her in the active voice can be changed into you should not push her, or she should not be pushed, or let her not be pushed in the passive voice. So one sentence in the active voice has three different types of passive voices, but the meaning remains the same. Similarly, in the next example we see learn the poem in the active voice can be changed into let the poem be learned, or you are asked to learn the poem in the passive voice. Now what happens with modal tense? While changing modal tenses, that is can, could, should, shall, will, would, may, might, must, has to, have to and had to, the verb is changed to the third form and be is added before the verb. For example, I should buy this clock. This is an active voice. How do we change it in passive voice? This clock should be bought by me. Similarly, he must learn this book in active voice changes to this book must be learnt by him in passive voice. What are the things to remember? If we look at the following sentences like I had been reading the book since 4 p.m. He will have been playing games with his cousins since afternoon. They will be playing a match on Monday. She has been reading a story for 3 hours. These are the sentences of future continuous, present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous and future perfect continuous tense respectively. The sentences of these tenses are not changed into passive voice. They are always used in the active voice. So I hope voices in the sentence are clear now.